Alright, so it's the late 1800s and Britain has a dream of their empire in Africa extending from the Cape to Cairo. Okay, cool, let's just let Britain be happy then and make her dream come true. Except, no, we can't do that. Why? Because there's a lot of nations and peoples that aren't trying to be British subjects. Notably for our story though, it's the maddest in Sudan. Who are the maddest? Well, since the early 19th century, Egypt under the Ottoman Empire controlled Sudan, but in 1881 an Islamic group led by Muhammad Ahmad bin Abdullah rebelled to form the Mahdist state. 1 year later though, Britain ordered Egypt for the menu, and you remember that dream from the Cape to Cairo? Well, guess who else has a dream? The French. France wants to see their empire stretch from Dakar to Djibouti. However, if we draw a line from the Cape to Cairo and another line from Dakar to Djibouti, we find that these lines intersect at a certain point. And alright, that's enough lines and shapes because this is starting to remind me of my math work and I'm low-key getting PTSD. Anyway, it is only logical then that only one nation would be able to achieve their desired span. This is where the town of Fashoda, today called Kodok, enters the picture. Kodok is a town situated in present-day South Sudan and is right around the area where the lines intersect. Now, whichever nation controlled Fashoda would be the one that would be able to carry out its plans. The French decided to act and assigned Captain Jean-Baptiste Marchand to lead an expeditionary force that would secure Fashoda for France. The plan would go as follows. Marchand would be accompanied by a force of 132 men, mostly consisting of colonial troops from Senegal. Marchand's army would make its way to Libreville and then from there to Brazzaville, where they would go along the Ubangi River and cross jungles and deserts before finally making it to Fashoda. In Fashoda, they would meet up with another French expeditionary force that would make its way from Djibouti and serve to reinforce Marchand's army. This other force was being led by Christian de Bonchamps. On the 20th of June 1896, Marchand arrived at Libreville and began the journey to Fashoda. On July 10, 1898, after about 14 months, Marchand's army finally reached Fashoda, but the de Bonchamps expedition had failed to make it past Ethiopia due to conflicts with local tribesmen. While the French were trying to make themselves comfortable in Fashoda, the British had dispatched an army of 1,500 soldiers led by Herbert Kitchener. This army was organized to force Marchand and the French out of Sudan. Kitchener's force, made up of both British and Egyptian men, arrived with 5 gunboats on the 18th of September 1898. Now, low-key, if I was on the French side, I'd be absolutely shivering right now because, I mean, the numbers, they just weren't simply in France's favor. Luckily for the French, though, Kitchener didn't decide to go all Rambo on them. Instead, a cordial meeting was arranged between Marchand and Kitchener to talk things out. Both officers agreed that they would await direct orders from their nations on how exactly to deal with the incident happening in Fashoda. You could call this event the Fashoda incident type shit. Anyways, when news of what was happening in the Sudan arrived in Britain and France, it sparked outrage in both countries, with both nations reaffirming their claim over the region. Among both the people and governments of France and Britain, there were strong calls for war. It got to the point where the British Navy had started to mobilize its reserves, and France had asked Russia if they would back them up in case of a war with Britain. Ironically though, in Fashoda everyone was much more cool about things, and Marchand and Kitchener were just straight chilling. Tensions between Paris and London were extremely high until on the 3rd of November 1898, Paris sent orders to Marchand to withdraw from Fashoda. So why did the French let themselves get bitched by Britain? Well, because while London was totally prepared to throw themselves into the ring with France, France wasn't exactly in the best conditions. They had a political scandal called the Dreyfus Affair going on, in which a French officer was being accused of treason. This case divided France and had domestic tensions extremely high, thus it was redirecting attention away from the dilemma in Fashoda. France's foreign minister, Théophile Delcasse, also hoped to come to friendly terms with Britain to secure a friendship in case France went to war with Germany. Though now the British controlled Fashoda, they still wouldn't see their borders reach from the Cape to Cairo until the end of the First World War, when German East Africa was taken from the Germans, and as for France, poor France.